So the topic of compassionate management, I wanted to introduce it, and as I was preparing for this, I did a little research, and I found a 2013 Gallup poll they do every year called State of the American Workplace. And in it, they survey a whole bunch of people, and they say that 70% of those surveyed either hate their jobs or are completely disengaged. And this last one was in June 2013. And when they asked why, many of the people surveyed complained of, quote, bosses from hell, unquote. So it seems that the state of the American workplace is not looking so good. And I'm curious how this interest of compassionate management became something that you were drawn to, because I'm guessing you didn't take a business class in college on it, and you probably didn't take a mandatory seminar before you got to be CEO that your board maybe made you take. So could you tell us a little bit of your path to...
I was trying to visualize a mandatory compassion certification course for CEOs.
Someday it might happen.
Yeah,
but,
maybe. Well, we should circle back to that study too, because I think there's multiple facets to why the state of the workforce is such that so many people are dissatisfied. But in answer to your question, no, I didn't take a class. And you and I have talked about the fact that if we could do anything other than what we're currently doing, rising near the top of that list would be working to ensure that compassion is taught in every primary school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think it can be taught. I think it should be taught. Can't think of anything more important to teach our kids, and what that would mean in terms of once that generation of kids grew to the point where they were the workforce and they were the future leaders. I think it would be extraordinarily valuable. For me, around the time I was 30 years old, a friend recommended The Art of Happiness by Howard Cutler, and it was the teachings of the Dalai Lama. And Howard had an opportunity to travel with the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, for years, and had this really unique perspective, and was able, like a lot of people would ultimately dream, to be able to ask the Dalai Lama follow-up questions when they hear him speak. He had the opportunity to do that after virtually every public speaking appearance His Holiness did, and he would end up taking notes and put it together and wrote this book. And The Art of Happiness is one of the most influential books I've read. It continues to sit on my nightstand. It has for the last 13 years. I don't read it very often. I just like looking at it, having it present there. And it reminds me of some very important first principles, among which would be the importance of compassion and just to be compassionate. So that was my first exposure to it. By the time I was 30, I couldn't have really told you the difference between compassion and empathy, or told you that I was practicing compassion consciously. I think a lot of folks in the West have a tendency to use those two terms, empathy and compassion, synonymously, and there's a really important difference. Empathy is feeling what another person feels. Compassion is almost an objective form of empathy, where you have enough space between your feelings and the other person's feelings when you're in a position to help them and ultimately alleviate their suffering if that's what's required. The Dalai Lama talks about something we wouldn't necessarily experience in Silicon Valley, but the Dalai Lama gives the example of you're walking along a trail in the mountains, and you come along someone who's got a boulder on their chest, and they're suffocating. Like I said, not necessarily Silicon Valley. And they can't breathe. The empathetic response is for you also to not be able to breathe, in which case there's nothing you can do. You certainly can't help them. The compassionate response is to recognize that they're suffocating, that they're suffering, and to do something about it. And so you do everything you can to remove the boulder from their chest.